Let's get into some graph editor stuff. So we'll use the sphere here. I have some keyframes I put down just kind of real quickly, so you can see it kind of goes around a little figure eight thing and kind of comes back and stops. Really crappy. So here's our graph, right? So if you guys remember from if you guys watched the thing on shelves, right? Boom, graph editor pops back up right there. So we'll kind of go over some basic stuff and what you're going to be using. So some tabs, some things that we're going to set first is, you see this little doohickey right there? You're going to have that on, like this. That locks your frames, so that moves on frame numbers. Because if you don't have that set, and let's say you grab this by accident and move it, then you'll get these goofy frames like this, like 44.5 and stuff like that. And you don't want that. It's a pain to clean up, and it just adds more work. So we want this on. And once you start moving around, and I think I mentioned before in one of my other podcasts, but if I haven't, there's a tool I like to use called the Buffer Curve Snapshot. Now, the Buffer Curve Snapshot is a really good kind of a ghost image of your curves to help you when you're cleaning up to maintain what you initially were going for. Because, if you start cleaning things up, then you might forget, oh, what did I have there? And once you change it, you don't want to Z back and get rid of all the stuff that you've cleaned up. So you go to Curves, Buffer Curve, Snapshot, boom. Then go to View, and mine's already on right there. You just go to View, Show Buffer Curves. Now, what is that? It's this thing right here, like that. See, now you have a ghost image of what you did. So when you're working with cleaning stuff up in the graph editor, you'll notice, you have all these things. I don't use any of this stuff, to be honest. These are just breaking tangents, which you're not really going to be doing a lot of right away. But one thing you will be using is the update button right there. See the little squiggly lines? So if I grab this, it's the one on the left. So let's say I go here and I move this. This looks perfect. It's exactly what I wanted. Update. And then it'll update the curve to what you had. But I'll just Z back out of that. Boom. Okay? So again, you move your curves. This is perfect. I love this. I want to change it now. I want to update it. Boom. You do that. Okay? Boom, boom. Go back. So keys, insert key tool, like if you see that, that's I middle mouse. So if you want to put a key on the curve, which is probably one of the only things, break down all this stuff. You don't need this stuff. Just use insert key. So like that, you hold down, you do that. Let's say, sorry, grab the curve, hold down I, middle mouse, boom, puts a key on it. Now let's say you want to put a key on all the frames. Do that, you select all of them, boom, you do that. Okay, so Z back, boom, boom, don't want that. Okay, curves. Let's see, is there anything in here? You can set these for cycles, but we're not going to be using that right now. The Euler filter is actually very, very handy when you're doing stuff, when you're doing what we call gimbal. So let's say you have two values that are shooting, like sometimes when you're animating, things will get kind of rotated around a bunch of times. Like you'll see a curve that'll look something like, where's that? Like, like this, right? Z, and then this will be like that. It'll go way off into outer space, and you're like, why is it flipping out, So you grab these guys, hit F, and then you grab this, and you go to the Euler filter, or Euler filter, depending on who you're talking to, and it'll kind of snap it back. This, I did it manually, so it's not going to really make any difference. But if you get to crazy, like where something's spinning around, and you don't know why, because your values are like, like translate X is like in 100,000 or something like that, then it'll fix that. But at this point, you won't really be using that very much. So, and here you have all the different tangents. You'll be using auto pretty much. I use linear sometimes when I want to break a tangent. So if I want something to hit hard, boom, and come out of, then I'll do that. So like, I'll show you what I mean. So let's see. actually, I'll kind of go up and clean this up. I'll show you how I would clean these curves up real quick. So let's look at the animation here. Just kind of like a figure 8, right? It's not too bad. It's actually, I should have made it worse. But I'll go through and I have my delete by type static channels button. So I only want to clean up what has animation on it, right? So I'll just hit that. And it gets rid of anything that isn't animated, right? So now I only have translates because there was no animation on anything else. So as I look at the animation I did, I can look at it and go, oh, okay, this looks pretty good. Then I'll look at my curves over here. Let me make this a little smaller so you can see what I'm doing. Right. So I'll hit F to frame it. So then I'm looking at let's look at X. Let's start with X. So X goes up, but I kind of want it to go out a little further here. So I'll grab these guys and I'll pull them down. Oops. Grab those and I'll hold shift and then middle mouse. The reason why you hold shift is because it keeps you locked on the frame. So it doesn't shift around from left to right. It keeps it just up and down. Because you don't want to be shifting, getting off the frames that you have it keyed on. So pull it down like that. So now I have it swinging out a little further. Right, okay, I like that. That's good. Then here I kind of have this bump. See that? Right? I have this bump here. I don't like that. So I'll just pull that down so it's nice and smooth. Then here, see, it kind of flattens and comes up. I want it to be nice and round. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so there it kind of feels very linear. So maybe I want this to get down there a little faster so it's a little smoother. Or get over there, I should say, not down there. And I don't need that one, so I'm going to delete that. So now that's a little rounder, right? So that means it's going to move an X a little faster. Get up there quicker. Okay. So then now it's coming up, but I want it to go out further. It's not going out far enough here. I want it to swing out more. So I'm going to move that a little higher. And now look at that weird bump there. So I don't even need that anymore. I'll delete it. Now it's nice and smooth there. Now it comes up and around. But right there, I want it to actually come over more. So actually I shouldn't have deleted that key. I'll leave that key there. And I'll move this up. And I'm going to move this one down. So I'm going to put a key right here with I middle mouse. I'm going to move that up. And then I'm going to do it that way. So it'll come up and over a little more rounded. Like that. See? It looks better. Right? But now it's coming up here and then it's kind of coming down a little abrupt right there. So then I'm going to go to my Y. And I will adjust the curve right there. Kind of comes down too fast there. So what I'll do is I'll put a keyframe right there. And a keyframe right there. And I'll delete this one. So it's more rounded. You can see the buffer curve snapshot I had there still shows me what I had. So I'll grab those guys. You always want to hit the auto tangent key after that. And I'll move that about there. So I have this nice rounded arc. It's nice and round, right? There we go. So now the movement, because we're not animating anything really in Z, or actually we are, aren't we? Shouldn't be. Yeah, I don't know why that's on. Okay, I should have locked it. So it's mainly just X and Y. Like that. So now it's smoother, right? It looks better. Now let's say I don't like that ending, how it kind of goes boink and comes straight back up. I want it to loop and settle, right? So how can I do that? Now, of course, keyframe it. When it gets here, I know when it's about there, I want it to be about here, right? So I want it to come down and then loop on its way back up. So I'm just eyeballing it like that, right? But then I have this weird wobble in here. Well, what is that? Okay, well, let's look at it. Okay, I can look at the curves here and I can see, well, they're kind of fighting each other. See where they crisscross? Now, this might seem confusing in the beginning. Don't worry about it. Just, as you animate more, you'll start to it'll make more sense. You'll see, well, something is making it dip in and out. What is it? Well, let's find out. Let's delete one and see what happens. Let's delete this. Was it that one? Let's try that. It kind of pivots right there. Feels a little abrupt. So, but it's better. Like that. So I kind of want it to taper in a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keyframe this one again. I'm going to pull that over like that. Pull this over to get it in there a little faster. Then I'm going to keyframe this one right there. I'm going to middle mouse that over, hit S on the time slider, and it should taper in. Pretty good. Better. So now it's nice and smooth, right? So what did I do? So now if you look at the curve, all right, let's go ahead and delete stat, and then we can delete the extra keys again when I hit S. Delete by type static channels, this button here. Boom. So now, looking at this, you can see, okay, let's look at the curve. You can see the changes I made. Right there, and right there. And I think that's it on this guy. Let's check out X. Select the curve. You can see I changed that. I changed that, this, and added some frames. So you can see with the snapshot on, I rough it out the way I think it's going to look. Then I go in the graph editor and I kind of push and pull and make it nice and smooth. Now there's little things like the more you do this, you realize like I can look at the curve here and I know I could delete these two. And it'll look better because it's smoother, right? The best thing for you guys to do is just keyframe the heck out of it and then clean it up the best you can. And don't get frustrated if it doesn't look exactly like you want, but the more you do this, the better you'll get at it. Okay, so just a quick once over again. This is turned on, your frame here, the thing to keep it locked on the frame. Then you're going to be using auto tangent over and over again. So when you change your curves, you're going to hit auto tangent. Boom, it's going to smooth it out for you, okay? So keys, the insert key tool is I middle mouse. So you go I, hold down I, and then middle mouse, bang, put in a key, right? Then you go to curves, you want to have buffer curve snapshot on, and then view, show buffer curves, right? And I think that's it. Yeah, so this is auto, spline, clamped, linear. I didn't explain linear. So let's say I want something to bounce down and bounce up. So I would take this and I would put it on linear, like that, which pinches the curve. So if I did something like this, it's going to make it go and hit that corner. When this is an X, so it'll go sideways. It'll go bang. See how it hits that corner? Pop. So we're going to do a bouncing ball, and that's kind of how we're going to do it. We'll get into that a little bit later. But that's how, if you wanted things to hit a wall and bounce off, or hit the ground and bounce up, that's what you would do. You would break your tangent like that. And then the more dramatic you do it, the more intense it'll be. So if I did that, if I put a key, whoops, wrong one, like that, boom, bang, it'll go wham really hard. So I'll show you that. So you'll see it'll hit that, it'll look like it's bouncing off of a wall now. Boom, see? So that's why you would use linear. And then when you're done with your buffer curve snapshot, everything looks good, you're ready to move on to something else, you just hit the update. Boom, like that. Okay, thanks guys.